it's global, and the distribution was through mining, through energy, and through leaking it on a mailing list, there is no threat. I mean, Larry Fink can try his gosh darn hardest and maybe get 5-10% or something, not nearly enough to matter. I mean, you need to own majority of an asset class to manipulate it, to price suppress it. So the fact that we all have it, Satoshi, I think that genius is lost on many, is that we were able to distribute Bitcoin to the people in a sufficient way, which protects us. Sure, Wall Street wants to buy it. Welcome to the party.
Love it. One of the things I was having a conversation earlier today, and we were talking about, Bitcoin as a treasury asset and, the public company story and what Saylor has done. And there was a question from the audience at the end of our Q&A in the deep. And it was about private businesses. And so, hey, you're talking about this, equity dilution and convertible note stuff and, kind of this like esoteric corporate finance.
Base is actually useful. You hear Michael Saylor talk about having $500 million of cash was just a melting ice cube. But having $500 million of Bitcoin is a strong capital base you could change the world with. And so that's our approach internally, is it's a real cost of capital. We try and measure that cost of capital, whether we take the average annual return over the last decade, over the last 5 years, over the last 1 year, and we make strategic decisions. But what that's done for us is we're not nearly as big as other startups people-wise. We stay lean people-wise. We stay focused product-wise. We only build things that we know people want. We only build things that are sustainable. We operate profitably, and we care deeply about that, and that we think we want to be net producers for the world. We want to, in Bitcoin terms, we want to do well. We want our shareholders to outperform Bitcoin by owning Strike shares. And so you got to be a net producer. You got to, have sats flow, as they say. So it's changed us entirely. But how he reorged Twitter and fired a lot of people, and he deserves credit. But I do think that was a microcosm of a larger story of people realize, like, wait a second, printing money for growth isn't growth, right? Like the analogy I gave on a podcast recently is, if your metric is, I'm making a lot of new friends, but you leave out the part of how much money you're spending on those friends to hang out with you. So it's like, that's the debt to GDP, right? If you're just focused on GDP, the American economy is doing great. It's going gangbusters. But if you include the debt part, which is like, how much are we spending for that growth? So I think it's changed. I think venture capitalists and investors value net producers, profitable businesses. I think also for folks that are interested in our company, it's measured in Bitcoin terms. It's the amount of Bitcoin you own going up. And are you able to build products that outperform Bitcoin growth-wise? And are you able to build products that produce more Bitcoin as far as sweeping cash flows? And I think shareholders are getting in venture.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, what I can speak to is just my transparent experience building Strike. I think a lot of the timing stuff for Lightning and the medium of exchange piece, I think I was early and I got wrong for sure. Strike is my first real entrepreneurial endeavor at any scale. And, sometimes I say it's like my first real job. I did have a job before Strike. Debatable if it's real or not. That's a different story. So I give that context to say when I started Strike, I really thought the job of the founder and the CEO was to kind of predict the future. And I figured, it makes a lot of sense for Lightning to disintermediate these things, and it should, in theory, play out in years, like you said, as opposed to decades or anything like that. And what I realized in building Strike is that my job is actually to just shut the fuck up and listen to custom fiat liquidity piece. We're living through really unique times of currency debasement. I think Bitcoin's the best expression of that. And if you're going to change consumer behavior at scale, people are changing at scale the way that they store money and wealth and assets a lot quicker than they're changing the way they use Apple Pay. So I don't know if that was the answer you were looking for, but that's just the truth.
No, that was a great insight. I'm curious, like on the actual tech itself, on the Lightning rails, and there's a bunch of kind of second layer ideas going around. How has your thoughts evolved on, or just general thoughts on Bitcoin scaling through custodians, scaling through layers? Has that changed meaningfully in the last few years, or is it more of the same?
No. My thesis on Lightning.
But is it just pure market forces that does it on the long term?
Yeah, so the problem, we've got like 10 minutes, so I'm not going to use it all talking about Visa. They don't deserve that. But the problem is the way that the relationships work is Visa monetizes, or any card network, they monetize what they call the acquiring side, the merchant. And so the merchant is the one, as we all know, that's paying these rent-seeking prices, 2-3%. But then what they do is they work with the banks, they are the banks, and that capital goes back to the consumer. And so the consumer is getting free Napa Valley wine, access to really nice lounges in every major airport. They're getting free flights across the country or across the world. It's the merchant that's in a lot of pain. So you can go to any merchant and say, hey, there's a cheaper, better way to accept any currency. It's just on an OPE with the people money. It's literally the separation of money and the state, and which is why I think a lot of us in this room are interested in Bitcoin. And really, at the end of the day, money is our time and energy in an abstracted form. I talk about it's human effort, it's labor. Like we all get up, we do stuff, and in return for that, we get money. So by proxy, when a government debases our currency, they're debasing you. Not the money itself, but like all your effort, all your time, all your energy. Money, in theory, should represent your contributions to society in like a perfect system. And so the fact that El Salvador said, we don't want to have an influence on that relationship. We don't want to be a part of that relationship. We want that relationship to be up to the free market. Because when the U.S. government debases the dollar, they're debasing me and all the time, energy, effort, and labor that I've put into my life in acquiring these dollars. So the fact that El Salvador did that's why it was a monumental step. I think that'd be massive.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's like that's escape velocity, right? It's like you can't really turn back from that. I think it's also interesting. Like even if it wasn't explicitly borrowing money, buying Bitcoin, it's like dollars are fungible, right? So that you're running a massive deficit, you also are acquiring Bitcoin. Like that is indirectly, you're indirectly borrowing to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, well, I think Lummis's proposal is super interesting, in that she's not necessarily proposing that we print a bunch of dollars to buy Bitcoin. She wants to take the excess reserves at the federal banks and reallocate out of gold and into some Bitcoin is the initial proposal. And to me, the proposal is like, listen, we have to start backing our future promises with something real. And we talk about Bitcoin 63% growth every single year. The U.S. is looking for growth. We're talking about debt to GDP, right? We're borrowing all this money without the growth to currency printing. And so if the United States were to acknowledge Bitcoin, support it, own it, and we would have a sitting president or government or whatever that supports the industry, I think as the world reserve currency issuer, I think that'd be as big a deal as I could have ever dreamed of when I got into Bitcoin, for sure.
Amazing. Fix the money, fix the world. Well, we are running out of time. I want to thank Jack Mahlers for the inspiration, insights, and the chat. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the Bitcoin Magazine news desk here at the close of day one of Bitcoin Amsterdam 2024. I am joined by none other than Jordan McHale.
7-week course. It's live instruction from some of the industry leaders. Dylan LeClaire, executives from UTXO, from MicroStrategy, from some of our network leaders. They'll be teaching this class, and at the end of it, you can earn a certified Bitcoin advisor certification, basically. So, I think one of the first, that's backed by MicroStrategy, Bitcoin Magazine, the credibility of those two entities joining forces. So that's really exciting. The other part of Bitcoin for Corporations is membership. So if you're a company that is looking to add Bitcoin to your balance sheet,
Right.
we are equipping you with all the tools, all the resources, and really just being a part of the network is really where the value is.
Yep.
So like-minded individuals, there's a ton of benefits. I mean, they're all listed on the website, but VIP events with Sailor, being a part of the masterclass, getting invitations to our flagship events, all sorts of educational content. It's really robust, but the big idea here is that we're joining forces with all
in legitimacy as the big company who owns 1% of the total supply of Bitcoin.
Right.
And they're partnering with us, the oldest, most trusted source of Bitcoin news and education, and our connections. And together, not only are we arming people who want to learn about how to implement a corporate Bitcoin strategy, but we're giving them the tools to go execute on that knowledge base. And then after that, they get a nice network of people that they can continue, spreading the word and, understanding what it means to really hedge, your corporate value, against the dollar.
Yeah, amazing. Do you think that just kind of capitalizing on the idea of strength in numbers, there's more people doing it, so now more people want to do it? Is that a big part of the strategy here?
Absolutely. And not only that, it's also just activating Bitcoiners right where they're at, right? Like we have a lot of people that come up to us, we work full time in Bitcoin. They're like, that's my dream. I want to have a Bitcoin job. And I think part of the encouragement here is like, we want Bitcoiners to be active right where they're at, right? You work at a company, you have a certain level of influence. Talk to your CEOs, talk to your C-suite people about, adopting Bitcoin into their strategy, right? Yeah. We don't have to leave, and we don't have to all work at Bitcoin companies. It's very stressful.
Right. We know that well.
It takes a lot of years off your life. You get gray hairs, but we can be effective right where we're at. And so that was a big part of my message too, is that, we're on a mission, and, we can do that right here.